Hi, everybody. This is Joseph Schooland here with Populi. I'm an account manager here. Maybe you know me. Looking at the list, I recognize a couple names. Um, or maybe you have a different account manager. That would be Nick Holloway, so it could be me or him. Um, and so, if I don't know you already, happy to happy to meet you and have you see me. And unfortunately, I can't see you, but maybe I will at some point. And let's go ahead and get started. A couple of housekeeping tips. One is there are two places you can put information. One is in the Q&A and one is in the chat. If you could please put all your questions in the Q&A. I've got this on my separate screen right here, right where I can see it. And so it's much easier for me to process those questions as they come through. And I'm afraid the chat ones might get lost. So go ahead and do the Q&A. I'll try and keep an eye on the chat just in case it gets mixed up. But to be safe, let's focus on the Q&A. All right. Let's go ahead and jump into intro to donations. All right. Here we go. Okay, to start off, and I start every one of these off this way. To start off, I want to let you know how you can get help in case you're stuck. That way, when you come back to this later, you're not drinking out of a fire hose and totally overwhelmed. You know where to get help if you get stuck somewhere along the way. If you forget everything we talked about today, you know how to get help. And that is right up here in the top right. There's a help button. You can click that. This is for you, your faculty, your staff, all your students, everybody. There's phone and email support for your faculty and staff, and then email only support for your students. You can go into the knowledge base. If you're the type who likes to research on your own, you can open a support request if you want to reach out to us. You can view any old requests you've already opened up here. And if you have an idea for a feature, you can make a feature request there or just take a look at some of the other features we're working on. If you want to interact with other clients just to see how they're using Populi, you can visit the user forum. If rather than typing out your question, you want to talk with somebody, then you can give us a call. Our number is 877, the number 4, and the word Populi. If you forget that, which hopefully you can memorize it, 8774 Populi, you can find that here. As soon as you get into the knowledge base, we have under promoted articles how to contact us and what we can do for you. And that has our hours and our phone number right here. We also have our phone number on our public website. So if you Google Populi, you'll probably find our phone number. So don't be shy. Love to hear from you guys. Some other ways to get help. So I've talked about our knowledge base where you can dig on your own. I've talked about our support team where you can call or email. And then we also have a YouTube channel now. So we're kind of getting hip and up to date. Come and subscribe, hit the bell, notifications, and you can see interviews, new features. This training event, all our training events get put on our YouTube channel. So you can, if you thought this was great, pass it out to the rest of your team. And then finally, if you want some really one-on-one training, more with a person in a setting like this, except you're allowed to talk and it's just me and your school or Nick in your school, then you can reach out to either me or Nick or even to our support team and request webinar training more one-on-one instead of just watching a recorded one. That way, the recorded ones are really awesome to give you an overview, so it's always good to start there. But what's handy about the one-on-ones is that you can drill into maybe some things that are specific about your school's situation that might not be covered in the general overviews. All right, so there you go. That is how you get help. Now, today we're going to focus on back at the Help Center. We're going to focus on, we've got financial, and we have a donation section down here. And we've got an article called Setting Up Donations. And we're going to use this to help us guide us through setting up donations. All right, so to set up donations, you're going to need to have the financial admin role. Once it's all set up, then you just need the donations role to be able to take and process donations. But the settings need to be adjusted by the financial admin. Step 1, let's do it. I'm going to show you visually instead of walking you through a help article, because you can do that on your own. You're going to go to financial up here in the black bar. And this first step, I'm not even going to go to donations yet, but I want to make sure that I've got my payment gateway set up. I'm not going to go into this in detail because I already went into this in detail in the student billing section, but I want to make sure all my online payment settings are filled out. And I actually have a payment gateway set up, whether it's Stripe or authorized.net. Those are the two that we connect to. You can find Stripe and their pricing at stripe.com. You can find authorized.net at authorized.net. Stripe, from my experience, just talking to clients, we don't have a partnership with anybody or anything, but talking to clients, Stripe seems to be really easy to use and fairly one of the least expensive because they don't have hidden fees. So when you're doing the numbers, make sure you're counting those hidden fees, because especially for small schools, those monthly fees can add up in a way that transaction fees don't. So make sure you're doing the math when you're comparing something with Stripe. Authorized.net is another one that folks use. The reason we connect to it is because it's pretty universal. So if you've got a good deal with your bank or some credit card merchant, you just don't want to leave, authorized.net will probably connect to them, which means by us connecting to authorized.net, we can connect to pretty much anybody. So it would be Populi connected to authorized.net, connected to whatever your favorite credit card merchant is. You can also use authorized.net directly as your credit card merchant. To add those, once you've got your online payment settings all set up, if you want to use Stripe, just click connect to Stripe. If you want to use authorized.net, you can use this quick link if you want, or if you already have authorized.net set up without Moolah, you can just put in the login name and transaction key. So that's step one, and that's high level, but hopefully you already have something like this set up. Step two, lay the groundwork in your chart of accounts. To do that, we're going to, again, we're not even going to donations yet. We're going to go over here to accounting, take a look at our chart of accounts, and we're going to want to add one or more income accounts to help gather donations. So we'll give it an account number, just match it whatever your main accounting software has, so it'll be easier to reconcile later. What's the account number over there? Put it over here. And you'll notice by some examples I have, dashes are fine, letters are fine, numbers are fine. We're not picky about that. Just match it to your main accounting software. I give it a name so that you can have an idea of what it is. Description if you want, and then make it an income account. One other thing you can also do, well, we'll go over that later. If you're setting up financial aid, you're going to want to do liability. And I've covered that other places, but I'll show you how that might tie into donations in just a sec. I just have one account called donations. Most schools probably are not going to be that boring. They might have an account that is just general giving and donations, unrestricted giving. They might have an account that's for their upcoming building fund, or their library fund, or their reservoir fund, or their foundation. So you could make different accounts. Each one has to be an income account for however you want the money to come in on donation side, on the donation side. So that has to be set up next under accounting, chart of accounts, add an account, account number, name, description, and then income account. All right, now that we got the groundwork laid, we can actually get into donations. Step three, set up one or more funds. We're going to do that under donations and settings, and I can have any amount of funds I want. So new building, new library. We talked about unrestricted giving. I'll go ahead and add that one because I need to have one of those added, and I only have one account for donations, so these are all going to the same place. Is it tax deductible? Yes or no? Should we show, is it allowed to be shown online? Yes or no? Should this be my default fund? Yes or no? And there we go. So notice how each one of these funds I can tie to the account I created on my chart of accounts. So I probably, in this scenario, would want on my chart of accounts, building donation income account, a library donation income account, and unrestricted giving income account. And I would put the different account for each fund. All right, so far so good. We've got some accounts set up, we've got some funds designated, and next up, step 4, one or more pages for online donations. So next we're gonna wanna create a way for people to actually pay us. Now these could be online, these could be on your website, or they could be in an email blast, or they could be printed out on a postcard. So you can make a different page for every type of appeal you're going to make. So that you know when those come through, that particular link, so this page is a URL that will let people give. So you know that the one you put on the postcard is unique. So you know that anyone who donated through that link donated it because they got the postcard. And you put another unique one in the email. So anyone who came through the email or anyone who donated through that page came through an email. So let's go ahead and we'll look at this. This is how it would look. Well, we'll do add a page, give it a name, and this would be my internal name for it. A title, this would be something that the donors would see. A page message, this is also something the donors would see. I can tie it to a campaign, and then I can create an appeal for that campaign. So maybe it's an email blast. So I'm not going to put this on my website so much as I'm going to put this in an email. And then what kind of fund? Well, we want to do a specific fund. We're going to do the new building fund because this is for the new building campaign. And I can do some sort of amount. What does it look like? Well, any amount over $100. I don't know. Or $5. I mean, if people are only donating, depending on my transaction costs, if it's 2% and 30 cents and they donate 25 cents, then I'm not going to break even on that one. So maybe I want any amount over $5. Or I could say just one preset amount. That's it. So they just say $100 and that's their only choice, $100. Or choose from a whole list. So 100, 500, 250. Or mix them together. So I could say any amount over $5, 100, 500, 250, and make as many preset amounts, and then any amount over that. I can have a certain thank you set up, a default or a message or a redirect to some page that you guys already have created yourselves, maybe back to your school website. Custom CSS, this is especially helpful if you're going to embed this into your website. Maybe you don't know what custom CSS is, but your webmaster probably does. And they'll be able to use this CSS to make the fonts and the box shapes and everything look like your website, so it's not sticking out like a sore thumb. Do you want us to send the email receipt after they donate from this page? Do you want to allow a donor comment or not? And do you want to allow recurring? This means they can opt in to have whatever amount they chose pulled out every single month. All right, so let's look at, so now I can just copy this link under the open page and put that in my email. Or I could get an embed code, copy and paste this, give it to my webmaster, and they can embed it into their website. Or if I have a fancy email system, MailChimp, I could probably use this to embed into an email. Or we can just take a look at it. I'll click open page and see what the final product is. If you have your logo uploaded to Populi, then we'll post that here. And here's the name you chose. And here's that text. We're going to ask them for email address and phone number. That way we can match them up with the correct donor. And 2 different payment methods, e-check or credit card, they can choose. And in this example, I decided to let them have 1, 2, 3, 4 preset amounts, 500, 200, 150, and then one other amount with no minimum. And they can then choose one-time donation, give this amount monthly until I cancel, or maybe we'll do 12 times. And then if they want, they can do a comment, hit make donation. There you go. You got $50 coming in every month for 12 months. All right. So we've already set up our chart of accounts. Those accounts feed into funds. Funds you can add to pages, and pages are where you can actually gather the money. So it goes into a certain fund, which will then go back to your chart of accounts so that your accounting people are happy that all the books are working out right. Step 5, add some appeal media. And this you might even do before you do pages, so you can set up your campaigns. But appeal media, you just want generic terms. So here I've got a postcard, email, letter, phone call. Maybe you have another way, but you can add whatever you want. But these are just generic. These are ways that you might appeal to your donors. And these you can tie in to campaigns in a little bit. And I'll show you that in just a sec. To add it, just hit add. Is it active or inactive? Give it a name. Pretty straightforward. Step 6, add custom donations fields. We have some custom fields and donations. These are not fields you would add to donors. These are fields that you would add onto a donation record as it came in. So if a donor had 5 donations come in, then you could put a different custom field on each one or the same custom field on each one. But this is going to go onto individual donations. If you want to add a field, there's a number of different types. I don't have any examples here right now. We have text. This is just like a short box of text. Select and radio are both multiple choice, but they have a little bit different look. So select looks just like this. This is a drop-down box. It's going to look just like this drop-down box I'm using under my input. Radio is going to be some radio buttons, kind of like a multiple choice test. It will look similar to that. Checkbox is another one. It's essentially check all that apply if we're thinking in terms of online testing or something, but it's like check all apply. They can check whatever boxes they need to. Date only allows them to put in a date. Date time only allows them to put in a date and a time. Integer is a whole number. Decimal is a decimal. File allows them to upload one file, or allows you to upload one file to the donation. Text area lets you type a bunch of text. So it's like text, except it's a much bigger block. So it's more of an essay versus just a small string of text, a sentence or so. And then multiple files is just like file, except instead of restricting you to one file, multiple files lets you upload one or more, or as many files as you want. You'll also be able to tag donors, like maybe if they're a board member or something, you want to keep track of that. Step 7, fill in the remaining donations settings. I'm not going to go over all these in detail. You can dig through them and then just shoot a question to support if you have a question or get them on the phone with you. But some general things, are you going to allow online donations? Are you going to allow recurring donations? What kind of messages should happen? What kind of notifications should happen? How does soft credits work with spouses? Stuff like that. Not a very long list, just read through it. Reach out to support if you have questions on those. A lot of them are probably self-explanatory because they have some text here. But if they're confusing at all, just reach out. So once you've gone through those 7 steps, you have set up donations. So let's take a look at how this works. Unfortunately, in my nice, clean school, I don't have a lot of donations data. So we're going to go over here to our demo college, demo.populyweb.com. You can request access to this if you want. It's a sandbox. All kinds of people come in here to play around. It's great to test out your ideas, but it's also a messy place. So there might be some things in here that just don't make any sense because, you know, students named Fred Flintstone and Mickey Mouse and things like that. Or school dude demo, there we go. So there you go. Those kinds of things can pop up in when you give everyone access to a demo college. But the handy thing about this is we've got a lot of data here so we can play around with it. Let's go to financial and then donations. And let's look at reporting possibilities. So first off, we got a dashboard. And we can look at this year to date, last year, this month, last month, or any range, date range that I want. And what this is going to show me is what's going on. So February, this year so far, we got 600 bucks. If I had a January, it would show that too, but I didn't have anything in January. So it's just giving me a little graphical way of seeing what's come in this year. I can also see by fund. And this would be a pie chart. Let's see if we can get some more data if we go last year. There we go. If I go last year, we got a little more data. It looks cool. And I can see each fund. And notice how they kind of interact. Show me the total there. I can see a summary of how many donations there actually were for this time period, the total amount of those donations, the average amount, and the largest, and any recent donations. I can also look at my data by campaign. Maybe you'll have a couple campaigns going, new building campaign, new library campaign, something like that. You're over the next 3 years trying to raise money to, or next year trying to raise money to build something or do something. To add a campaign, I just give it a name, goal, deadline, and make sure it's active. I can edit these just by clicking the pencil. I can delete them by hitting the delete button. Once I've added them, I can click on them. And I can see the same kind of graphics I could under the dashboard, except only for this campaign. How many donations last year and by appeal. Oh, and because this is all one fund, it's not going to be by fund, it's going to be by appeal. I've got a couple appeals here. So the medium is, this is where I'm going to pull this in. Now, a lot of these mediums sound crazy, right? Phone-a-thon. Remember, you want your mediums to be simple things: email, phone call, postcard, a letter. And so my medium is going to say letter. And then I'm going to give it a more specific name called Isaac's Fundraising Letter. And we sent all these letters out on December 11, 2015. It cost us $7 to print all the letters. And we've got that data here. And on that letter, I could then put a page. Remember those pages, those links? And then we'll look at it again in case you forgot. In this particular page, I'm going to want to have it be the Coral Tour campaign and Isaac's Fundraising Letter appeal. So that way, once I generate this, I can copy and paste this link, put it into my letter so that folks can type in that link into their computer or email or whatever, however you sent it out. And then, you know, everyone who came through that link came through Isaac's, that letter that we sent out. What was it called? Isaac's Fundraising Letter. And then, because we're keeping track of the donations that are coming in through that letter, we also have an ROI. That cost me $7, and I got a bunch of money for that $7. Also, any page that I choose to have this campaign is going to show up listed here too. So I don't have to go digging back into settings all the time. I can see it right here, and I can even have a quick, handy access to the link. I can even bring in pages directly to this campaign. All right, so that's campaigns and how appeals work within campaigns, and how pages can also aid you in your campaigning. Next up, we have two different ways of looking at the money that's coming in, the donations that are coming in. One is by each individual donation. And so here, Aaron Bells, if he donated 5 times, he's going to show up 5 times on my list. By default, Populi is going to show me everybody who's donated in the last month and who has not been acknowledged. So I haven't thanked them. Now I can filter this by however I want. I can filter all time, everyone who hasn't been acknowledged over all time. And I can filter by other things too. And I could even say I want to see everyone who has been acknowledged because I want to look up some old donations. Once I filter down, I can hit save that filter, and then I can email that group, text that group, add a communication plan. Maybe I want to put them on a communication plan that sends them an email every week for the next 6 weeks. Or maybe this communication plan isn't for them, it's for my assistant or whoever our administrative assistant is going to be. And it's 4 to-dos that need to be checked off over the next week for this people. In fact, I could say, let's look at any donation received. Well, I don't want to slow us down, but I could pull up any donation received that is over amount. Here we go, right there. Greater than or equal to $1,000. So anyone who does a single donation $1,000 that hasn't been acknowledged yet, then I want to add a communication plan with 4 tasks for the whoever handles that, my donations person, so that they can make sure they check off those tasks to thank them in the proper way that we want to acknowledge those types of donors. We also have some presets in our load, donations this month, this week, this year, or anything I've saved I can find back. All right, so that's looking at it from one angle, just the donations coming in. If I want to see a bigger picture, just more high level, I can look at my donors. So here I see Aaron Bells. Just a quick look. I could probably filter by Aaron Bells, but I could see he's got 4 here. Actually, I could just sort by donor name. Oh, Aaron Bells has way more than 4. And so then I can go over here to, at least these are all unacknowledged. So you might even have more that have already been acknowledged. When I go over to donors, based on my time period, this looks like it's all time right now. I see just 1 Aaron Bells because I'm looking at it from the donor perspective, and I can see his total donations. So it looks like he has a few more than on the donations list because we've probably acknowledged a few of them. And see his largest donation, total amount, if there's any soft credits included. And same thing here. I can filter this down to whatever way I want. From here, I can email or text those folks, apply a communication plan to those folks, print yearly summaries. And in our load, I can save any filters I create, but in our load section, we've got some more sophisticated stuff. Donated last year, but not this, some year, but not this month, this week, this year. Anyone who downgraded this year, who upgraded this year, and largest donations this year. So I'm sorting by that. And then I could also have a save filter. All right, so we've looked at the money coming in by donations, by donors. Now we've got a handy little tool. This is just if you use recurring donations, then you can see when they started, the name, when they wanted to end, last time they were charged, the day of the month that they get charged on their recurring donation, how many times they were charged, how many times left. Looks like this was ended maybe. And this is probably a demo college thing where we don't actually charge people. So this is just fake data that we kind of shoved in here. And what the payment method was, credit card or e-check, if it's still active or not, and what the monthly amount is. That way, if they call you up, then you can click on this little settings button and I can change the payment info if they want to update their credit card or change their schedule, so the day of the month it comes out. Or just resend the link to them so that they can make whatever changes they want. Or I can pause it or cancel it. And they are going to, every month before we draft their account, they're going to get an email saying you're about to draft this much or whatever. And they'll be able to go in and change some things if they need to, just so that you're not overdrafting anybody's account accidentally. And then finally, if we want to click on a person's name, we'll see their profile. And this profile is going to be the same as um, what their history, their entire career was. So they'll have their activity feed, all their contact info here, and then any other tabs they've had along the way. So if they used to be a student, they'll probably have an admissions tab for when they were admitted. They'll have a student tab for when they came in, when they had their academic record. Aaron Bells has never been a student, so he just has these few here. And then under financial, I'll be able to see all his historic invoices and specific donations for each calendar year. Print yearly summaries. He's got an active recurring donation I can see here. I can see all his donations by fund. I can give him a representative, one of my donations people, so they can keep track of Aaron. I can also change his status. Right now he's active donor, but I can make him inactive, or maybe he used to be not a donor and I'm going to change him to a potential donor because I want to keep track of him. And if they call me on the phone, I could just process the donation payment right here over the phone. I could send them to my page on my website, or I could just say, sure, give me your credit card or give me your e-check information. Or if they mail the check, I could record a donation. Choose the fund, split that between multiple funds. And it could be other types, money order, gift in kind. So that is an overview of donations. So go ahead and ask any questions that you have. Robert asks, how's it going, Robert, by the way? Is there a way to import past donation history from another platform? There is. So you're probably asking this, Robert, because we tell you we don't do historic financial information. We don't like to do any financial information that wasn't generated by Populi. And that is true for student billing and financial aid. We're just real careful about that. We don't want to, it's just a real complex process, and probably wouldn't help you out in an audit anyways. You probably need your original stuff in an audit anyways. Because donations is different though, it's really more, it's not as complex as student billing. It's more just more CRM type data. And even the donations themselves are kind of CRM type data. Then we will import that past donation history, including all your donors and donations. Julie asks, how do you add a donor for the first time? We're a very small school and we're not linking to our website for online payment, but we want to use the database. Good question, Julie. I'm gonna go back to the clean school. And let's say we've got Simon student. Actually, Simon student might already be a donor. He is. Let's do Sean. All right, so here's what I would do. First, they need to be in the system. So I need to make sure I add them as a person, or add a new person. Or if they're already in here, don't need to worry about it. Good to go. I'll just search for them. So let's pretend, and I could type in their name, Bob Smith, just like I'd add anybody else, any faculty or staff. And let's pretend they're already in the system though. So I'll just search for them. Oh, here's Sean student. Found him. And we'll go to his account. Under financial, he'll still have a donations tab, even though it's not active, because his status right now is none. So to switch him to being a donor, so he shows up on my lists and stuff, I just need to switch this. And notice real quick, under his system tags, he's an alumni, and he's got some honors and stuff like that, but no donation information. I'll just switch to potential donor, save. And now he's got a potential donor tag, so I can track him that way. Or if, and he'll automatically become an active donor if I record a donation through the system or record a donation here, because that's an active event. But if I just want to have him be a potential donor so I can start emailing him and stuff like that, then I can switch that here, or I can manually switch to active donor. And so that's where it would happen. Also might want to add a representative while I'm here. Philip asks, can you apply multiple soft credits to one large donation? For example, or that is a region sends in a large check of $1,000, but that represents several churches who have contributed individual amounts. The region makes a donation, but the individual churches get the soft credit. So one quick answer is you probably already know that you can record donations given by organizations. They don't need to necessarily be by individuals. Let's go here under donations, Tom Donor. Oh, we don't want Tom Donor, we want his donation. So 158. And add soft credit. So I can link this to a person or to an organization. Agape College. Apply. Add another one. We'll do another organization. Well, I don't know. We'll try B this time. ABC College. So as long as I've got my organizations set up, so all my churches, so notice how I just added multiple soft credits to this donation. So the answer is yes, Philip. And just to make sure you can do that, what you're going to need to do first is go to admin and add your organizations, or just make sure they're here. You can click on the table and see the list of them, and you'll see their types: high school, church, college. If I want to add a new one, give it a name and give it a type. This is going to be a church. And so I'll just make sure all my churches are listed as organizations, and then I can add them, as many as I want to that particular donation as a soft credit. Any other questions? Robert asks, what about breaking down one check into multiple campaigns? You might have got me on that one, Robert. Let's see if we can figure it out. Let's say Aaron Bells will record a donation. Yeah, I don't think we can. Looks like one donation has to go to one campaign. So there isn't a way I can split between funds, but I can't split between campaigns. I've got to focus it on one campaign. Sorry about that, Robert, but I know you like to stump me, so. So multiple funds, yes. Multiple campaigns, no. Like one more thing here. Yeah, so even on the campaign here, if I open up the donation, it's one campaign, not multiple. Philip says, how do we track those who pay on a student account? It is not a donation per se, as it is a payment on a student tuition account. There's a way to track donors who do that. There was one thing I was going to tell you about that I forgot, and that is that when I'm setting up my pages, actually when I'm setting up my funds, scholarship fund, I don't have to choose an income account. I can choose a liability account. And in Populi, liability accounts are just reserved for grants, loans, any financial aid, any scholarship, whether it's institutional. So I could actually have a donation fund go directly into a liability account, which I can then use to go out into a scholarship. So that might be a roundabout way to get to what you want. Those who pay directly to a student account, so let's say Sean's student or Simon's student, someone calls up and said, excuse me, and says, I want to pay Simon's tuition. Then I can open this up and make a payment, put in their contact info, or I can send them this link. But there's really no way for me to list that in donations that they paid for a particular student, unless we do it the roundabout way where they're paying into a scholarship fund, and then that's going to get farmed out to students. I mean, maybe I could use, yeah, now this. So if I want them to pay with a credit card, there's no way I can record it. If I want to record a payment like a check, then I can record who paid it, whether a parent, other person, or organization, and make some kind of reference number. But again, this is just going to record that they paid something on this transaction. It's not going to be in really the donations section. It's just going to show up on whatever invoice they paid. I'm just quiet because I'm trying to rack my brain, think if I can think of any other workarounds or any way to do it. And I can't think of anything off the top of my head. But good question. Anybody else? Philip asks, regarding tags, can we enter tags in batches, or do we have to do it one by one? Right now, you have, well, let's look. I'm going to give you a two-part answer to this. First part, let's say we pull up donate donors, actions, and I can tag donors here in batch. So I can filter the results by how much they donated last year or what city they live in or whatever, and I can tag this entire group, or I could even untag this entire group. I don't think it would make sense to do that from this area because these aren't people, these are donations. So yeah, from your donors table, one of your actions is to tag or untag that group. If you want even more power when it comes to tagging people in batch, you're gonna have to wait just a little bit because we just posted this on our blog. We're releasing, instead of having an admin spot, we're gonna have contacts, and contacts will let you list all people inside your entire Populi in one spot. All your staff, faculty, donors, students, alumni, everybody. And from that one spot, you can filter down in all kinds of different ways. You can even hit check boxes next to the individual folks' names and then tag or untag, or even set a custom field for that group. So that contacts piece will probably be helpful to a lot of different departments as you're trying to organize your people. So yes, you can do it now on the donors page. Just got to filter your donors down, hit tag, and yes, you'll be able to do it in an even a bigger way across your whole school when we release contacts, which because we posted it on our blog a couple weeks ago, that will probably be coming out in the next couple weeks. Any other questions? All right, sounds good. Thank you guys for showing up and being a part of this. And this is being recorded and will be posted on our YouTube channel and probably in our knowledge base too. So if you want to pass this along to other folks, then feel free to do so once we got it, the recording up. Julie squeezed one in. Is there a way to link a spouse's name to a donor? Yes, and we would call that a soft credit. So under donations, if I pull up a donation, I can add that soft credit. So Philip asked this before, what about churches? Well, what if I wanted to link to an existing person, and then I look for Tom's spouse and put her in here? There is a setting, and I kind of breezed over it, but in the general settings under donations, we have a settings that says automatically give soft credit to spouses. So if you want that to happen every single time, then just click yes. You'll need to make sure that your spouse, your relationships are set up properly in Populi. So Aaron Bell's under info, I'll need to make sure to add a relationship, a spouse, Margie. Save. So here's Margie. She's in here. Aaron Bell's his wife. If I click on Margie and go to her info, because I added on Aaron Bell's, it's going to automatically add on Margie's too. So it's going to be a relationship back and forth. And so once these relationships are all set up, if I've got that setting turned on, automatically give soft credit to spouses. Populi knows who the spouses are. So then it will just automatically do that for you. Any other questions? All right, good. And go ahead, if you're typing one right now, just squeeze it in. But if you have any questions, reach out to our support team. We'd love to hear from you. If you want to see this recording or any others, or send it to other folks, go to our YouTube channel. I think we also have them in our knowledge base. And if you want to set up a training webinar to get down in the details for your specific school that, you know, more specialized, that's not covered by our general YouTube overviews or this kind of overview, then reach out to your account manager. If you don't know who your account manager is, reach out to support and they'll connect you up to them. And you can schedule a training webinar with them for that particular piece. Take care, everybody. Thanks for showing up. All right, bye now.